Hi, everyone. Welcome to Turning Point. I'm your host, Blaine Birch. And joining me today, I have Mike Snyder with RapterUSA. And I know Mike is a marketing expert, which we always want to learn more about. And so I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories of your life and how you've got to be where you're at. Thanks for coming on the show, Mike.
Hey, Blaine, I appreciate your having me here.
And, I always like to start with going all the way back. What was your first, inclination that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a fascinating thing, right? So I was born a U.S. Marine. Should tell you that right off the bat because I can't really separate some of my stories from my history as a Marine. I spent 24 years in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
Lieutenant Colonel in the reserves. And so, I spent a lot of time with the gun club, so to speak. And then at the same time, that paralleled my journey into entrepreneurialism. And to answer your question, when I was a very young man, I just had this thing in my heart and mind. Someday I just wanted to run a company and be able to mentor employees and speak into their life. I just didn't know what kind of company or how I'd get a chance to do it.
Well, it's interesting because I'm on another podcast with my friend Mike Mylan, Mike and Blaine, and he was in the Army, and then he was like a state trooper, and then dove into entrepreneurship, and I think he's had like 12 businesses and has done some really interesting stuff. But he talks a lot about how his experiences in the Army affected his and sort of informed his ability to run a business. And so I think that's really fascinating. I'm sure there's a lot of those things that you bring from the more than discipline. I'm guessing there's got to be a lot of things that you bring from the Marines that have just served you well.
Well, so when you're an officer, even when you're, an NCO or senior NCO in any of the services, I'll even include the Coast Guard in there. They're close to my heart. I like those guys and gals out there in blue, doing the job daily. But, you learn, first of all, how to take risk and manage risk, because ostensibly it's about, combat warfare, limited resources, having to replace, beans, bullets, and band-aids and all that stuff. So you learn how to manage, think about risk, even strategically. Then two, ostensibly it's a management job. You've got to get things done, right? And then on top of that, and ultimately in business, you want to be a leader, but that's the icing on the cake. Let's not get leadership and management confused. Management is getting the job done at the detriment of people, time, and resources. And leadership, of course, is taking care of people to the detriment of resources and time. Yeah. So they kind of compete. But anyway, you learn the balance between all of that. And so it's like, okay. And I think that folks who understand that are really have a kind of a leg ahead in starting a business, running a business.
What I like, what you said there that kind of stuck out to me was when you're talking about staff, it's helping people. And I thought that was a really interesting way to phrase that. Can you dive into that a little bit, like that philosophy of leadership that's helping people rather than, I don't know, driving or whatever?
It is fascinating, isn't it? So, I've run a couple of companies. I was public affairs guy in the Marine Corps. And so, what do I do, right? It's really fascinating if you think about how do I get into running my own company? Well, of course, what is it that you do? Well, I did kind of marketing, with an emphasis on PR and all that. And so I got into running an ad agency. And all of the, I've run an ad agency, I birthed a marketing firm, I ran a digital LED technology company, sold that. I've done 2 mergers and acquisitions within the marketing firm. So, 30 employees, 2 locations. And so, it's always a battle between getting the job done while at the same time trying to create a culture of excellence where people want to stay, where you're not a tyrant. And that is that battle all the time, especially in a rapidly growing company, because, there's a crisis or two, that comes along with that daily.
Every day.
And it's like, hey, Todd, Lisa, I love you so much. You're doing a great job. I just appreciate all the time you're putting in here, but I need you to stay a little late today. We got to get this thing out the door, so it's like, okay, just don't go up there and say, stay late today, damn it.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? It's like, okay, and then let's talk about maybe giving you some compensatory time, or what really worked well for us in the leadership aspect. People just want to know, they want to see that you acknowledge the sacrifice. Yeah. So we, this worked very well for a long time. We just gave that employee 2 tickets to the theater, right? Or a $50 gift card to take their spouse out to eat. And that works wonders.
Yeah, yeah. And I will get back to where you started these businesses, but I'm just really interested in this area. And I was talking with a friend of mine, I think it was yesterday, the day before. I was a longtime entrepreneur, and we got onto such a similar topic, talking about um, sort of where that line is drawn, where as a leader, you need to like sort of paint the vision and the mission and sort of always be positive and painting the picture of where you're going. But then when do you step back at times and say, guys, I need your help? I'm not sure. Like where is as a leader, are you always on as leader, or when can you sort of be I don't want to say authentic, but sort of open up a little bit to your team? Is there a place where that's right, or do you always have to be like lead?
Well, that's an excellent question. That really is. So, you're talking to, a retired U.S. Marine officer, and I would have to say that the model that the Marine Corps espouses is what we call servant leadership, leadership. And that is a highly collaborative process. It's a highly collaborative model until it isn't. Okay. And that is,
Yep.
And it can be even in extreme and crisis situations. It's like, okay, people, we've got 3 minutes to figure something out. Give me your best ideas. What do you think? What should we do? Instead of coming in over the top. Okay. Right. And that's kind of like the Vietnam scenario. Okay. The lieutenant runs out in front and gets shot by his own people. He's not bringing them along, And so it's that, but that is ego. What that does is that diminishes the ego of the leader. It doesn't build the ego of the leader. So really there's a natural humility, okay? And that's okay to be vulnerable, to take a step back. And that, I'll tell you what, that fits my personality. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of folks out there that are type A, I don't want that. I don't have time for that. I just want to tell people what to do. Well, you know what? There's a lot of ways to run a business. And I've consulted with hundreds and hundreds of clients over 20 years in the marketing consulting space. I've seen it work all kinds of different ways. So I'm just saying, if that's who you are and you can't discipline that, you can't bring control to it, then you know what? Then you have to put a team around you that can help soften the collateral damage or that can interpret and perhaps even augment, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, Mike said we're going to do this way, and now let's get collaborative.
Yeah.
And it changed, so we'll take that back up to Mike and see, if we can't get him to change his mind. All kinds of leadership styles will work. I prefer the servant leadership style, because you have to understand, I'm not a manufacturing company. Yeah. My employee, my plant is all people.
Yeah.
I got them to want to work hard and bring excellence to our clients. So therefore it works. And by the way, I need to tell you, we've implemented over the years, thank God, we've taken the running of the business very seriously. So we measure our culture. We have a culture model. The culture model came from the Netflix culture model back in the day about stunning colleagues, okay, and various, so we actually have a structure to our culture that we can, articulate, and then we measure once a year against that. And we've typically been very, very high. We're talking 90 to 100% year over year over year because of these things we're talking about.
And it's interesting because I'd never heard, and I'm totally unaware that the U.S. Marines was that servant leadership approach, which I find also really quite fascinating. Just it caught me. I'm like, I'm going to read about that after. I'm going to grab a book or something. I just find that really fascinating.
The movies don't portray that well.
Yeah, it's not what I would expect, but it's and it's leadership styles. Like there's things that I'm always sort of struggling with, of sort of going back and forth. And I know when we're under pressure as a business, my go-to is to lead. Come on, guys, let's go this way. But sometimes that fails to bring in what you're talking about of, what do you guys think? That's where I could skip over when there's less sort of pressure. The bullets aren't flying like that metaphorically.
Let me clarify something that's kind of important. Okay, I don't want to get the U.S. Marine Corps. I want the Pentagon calling me. They've called me enough times. Hold on to the carpet. All right, there, retired Lieutenant Colonel Snyder. What are you saying? You're obligating the Marine Corps to be this kind, compassionate, listening organization. But the Marine Corps tends to, and this is interesting too. Each person manages 3. around 3, right? So, when I say, hey, servant leadership, well, let's just say there's a lieutenant who's a platoon commander. Well, he's listening to his platoon sergeant and perhaps his 3 squad leaders. That's 4, right? He's not going down to corporal or private schmuckatelli who
Oh
just
yeah,
graduated
okay,
boot
yeah.
camp. Okay, now the squad leader manages 3 fire teams. And, so that squad leader. So do you hear what I'm saying? You're getting that collaboration at an appropriate level.
Yes. Yeah. No. That's. Thanks for clarifying that. And yeah. And I'm probably not the one to go like about everyone's opinion matters sort of thing, or whatever
That's
it is.
called
Like
chaos, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Like I understand that, but I think I find myself being more like when there's a lot of pressure, I tend to grab the reins, right? And I think there's at times where I'm like, slow down. I got some really smart people here. Let me gather all the information from them. We don't have to rush into something because I'm going to say, let's climb the next
Well,
hill, right?
so when it comes to running a business, I've been very fortunate in that I have a close collaborator. I've never really run a business by myself. There's always been at least one partner, as many as 4. And I got to tell you, partners will either help you multiply, be a force multiplier to use Marine Corps language, or they'll freaking run you out of business. And we know that. It's harder than a marriage for ego, financial reasons. I mean, it's just, everybody's got the brightest idea. But yeah, so, my business, I'm like you. So it's really interesting. You take these, bevy personality tests. And one of them, of course, was how do you operate in a crisis? I'm like you. Collaboration goes out the door. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it now. This way, go. Meanwhile, my business partner, who's usually doing that during the good times, takes the alternate position. Well, let's slow down. Let's hear people out. And so it's kind of like that salt and pepper relationship.
Okay, interesting.
So I really value that good partner. If you can find a great partner, you'll go farther. I think. Now you got to split the money. You got to be okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I have a co-founder in Dryrun, and we've been working together since around 2016, I think. And he's absolutely outstanding. I know because I've been in business for a while. I've had other businesses, and I've learned some things the odd time, the hard way. And what that tells me is I know how lucky I am today to have a co-founder that is so. We augment each other really well. We work together really, really well, and we've done it for years. And that's the amazing part. Is it's just, it's I know that every single day how absolutely fortunate I am because I'm talking with other founders all the time, and that isn't sometimes the case, right?
Well, it's a funny thing, right? So my business partner, if you want to call it that, my God, okay, so we've been business partners in 1, 2, 3 operational companies, right? 3 different operating from, ad agency to marketing firm, RSM marketing to RapterUSA, high-end, strategic, marketing consulting firm. We're also partners in multiple commercial real estate ventures. We've been partners in a technology company. So, it's even once you get a hold of a partner, whatever you're doing, bring him in. It's so funny. He brings me in, I bring him in. Isn't that kind of sick? Our wives are like, what's going on?
But if it works, you can't take that for granted, right?
Well, and we've gotten rid of a lot of partners who, and when I say get rid of, let me just say, look, we set a pretty high bar. And a lot of times partners, we're talking about culture, partners, this is some pretty high level discussion here. Then we'll get into strategic marketing too. But partners, what we found, and we're not talking about tiny companies. We're not talking about huge ones either. We're talking about companies with dozens to scores of employees. And partners, just like whether they're made a partner or they're a financial investor who comes in, they think that partner equals made and easy. And we're like, no, it means scratch the made and scratch the easy. When I say made, like MADE, not made. Mary Mays, whatever. But we have to work harder. We have to set the example. We have to own the area of responsibility. You've got to deliver on time with those metrics. And some of them say that's not what I signed up for. And then we to avoid shareholder lawsuits, we get them out the door and they sign the release and we move on down the road. So thank God we've been able to do that. I have had many, many clients where they're the minority partner and they're stuck. I mean, they're in purgatory until they're not. Decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way
Yeah,
around it. Yeah.
totally.
Well, how did let's get back to, I guess, that first business that you where you sort of took, I guess, that leap. I don't know if it was a complete leap, or did you start it while you were in the Marines? You know, you've got this
No,
partner. How did that
so
happen?
yeah, I'll give you the expedited version of it. And I want to encourage people out there because a lot of times good things have bad starts. And so I was working for this large accounting firm. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. I was at NORAD. I just happened to be at NORAD in Colorado Springs on 9/11. And I was working as a public affairs officer at NORAD, and I got mobilized, and I had just a wonderful year in the midst of a really bad thing, 9/11. And I came back, and my company had been very supportive. By law, they were required to hold my position, take me back, and then 6 months after that is when that law provision expired, and that's the day I got released from the company. They did not want that to happen again. So necessity is the mother of invention, and I was 36, and I'm like, I want to do something different. I've always wanted to, be in a company, run the company, and that's when, by and by, I got hooked up with my future business partner, and we ran an ESOP. It was the first employee-owned company in the state of Kansas, 1972. A really old ad agency, and so we were running this ESOP together. We doubled employment, we doubled revenues. We're both great salespeople and operators. I had to learn the whole consulting and advertising side. I did not know advertising, which watch Mad Men. That's actually how it's like on the advertising side. And then, so we did that together. He left, he went to work for Coke Industries. I got the company through the Great Recession. Isn't that fun? Ad agency in the recession.
Yeah.
And then we decided to start something together, our own company, because we tried to buy the ESOP, couldn't. And we started a little marketing firm with the premise, and this is critical. I want to bring in this idea of differentiation. It is the critical failure of entrepreneurs. And I don't care whether it's an ongoing, concern of 25 years or it's a startup. Everybody has to learn and continually differentiate as competitors catch up. So we started this company with the premise of we wanted to be the anti-agency. Okay, and that's when, right, we did it out of frustration that we couldn't buy that. By the way, that company went out of business in 4 years. They did not have the strategic vision to replace, the lineage of leaders. And that was sad to see, but our company, it flourished, not on the bones of their company. But we were able to achieve differentiation. So within the crowded marketing consulting space or digital marketing space, we eventually had this. Can I tell you a little story?
Yeah. Stories. That's what we're here for.
So, this is actually a true story because, it's so funny how, so when we started our company, it's like, okay, we went off to a little strategic retreat of 2 of us, and we thought to ourselves, okay, how are we going to create the anti-agency? And we knocked our heads around for 2 days. We couldn't figure it out. So we started what we knew, which was an ad agency, and immediately grew to $1 million in revenue at 12 employees within about 6 months.
Wow.
And then something began to happen. The market started to talk, and this is a critical understanding in learning how to, or continuing to differentiate your company. The market talks back. The thing is, a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of business leaders aren't really listening because they're busy executing the annual plan. So what happened was Bob and Henry started popping into our offices. And Bob and Henry were 2 partners. Maybe they were running a manufacturing firm. Maybe they were running an HR company. Maybe they were running a distribution company. Maybe they were running any B2B company, right? And they were referred to us, and they started telling this story. Hey, we're all out of the Great Recession, and maybe we've been an engineering-driven company, or, we've been a distribution focus, all those focuses you can have as a company. But, this marketing thing is getting more competitive out there, and we really feel like we need to start taking marketing more seriously. That's 1. 2, they say, we think we need to hire a marketing director, but we don't know how to do it, and we don't want to manage it. That's 2. And then they say, 3, do you have any recommendations? And so now the first couple of times this happened, Bruce and I pretty much ignored everything they said, and went on to our pitch, right? Yeah. And then we would say, hey, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. And as soon as you hire a marketing director, have them, give us a call, we'll work together. And they would leave kind of frustrated. And so this happened 2-3 times. And then in the kitchen one night after work, well, maybe we're daft, but we're not dumb. So we said, hey, wait a minute, this keeps happening, and we reached the conclusion, we think they want us to be the marketing director. They
Mhm.
want to outsource that to us. We inferred that. But the next time this happened, we actually said, okay, I tell you what, we hear you. You don't have to hire a marketing director. This is the whole law of differentiation. How are you going to be different? We said,
Yeah.
we'll do that. Okay. Now, what we did automatically is, did we have marketing directors? No, we had these things called account executives. But guess what? That's not set in stone. Like, you can call an employee whatever you want. So automatically, we changed the title from account executive to marketing director. It's how you
Yeah.
think about something. The 4 Ps, right? Product, place, price, and promotion. So all of a sudden, our product, we just renamed our product from
Mhm.
AE to marketing director. And they went, oh, you have marketing directors? Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them. And you'll pay for some of their time and all the services you need under one flat monthly subscription. And by the way, this was 13 years ago when subscription pricing for professional services was really, really novel. And so
Yeah.
there's only 4 levers really that business leaders, owners can pull, and that's either product, price, place, or promotion, just to put it in the classical 4P structure. And so
Mhm.
we immediately played with our product. We made it a subscription. The price became flat. Now that put the operational onus on us to not like over service and lose our shirt. And then also we messed with promotion, which is how you talk about yourself. We
Mhm.
started calling ourselves an outsourced marketing department. And why? And then I'm going to take a pause and shut up because, and this is another huge thing when it comes to differentiation.
Yeah.
And most of us are focused on the USP, USP, right? Drill sergeant says, focus on the USP. We say, okay. And that's the unique sales proposition or the unique selling proposition. Well, I
Mhm.
like the UBP. Now, the UBP is the unique buyer's proposition.
Mhm.
What are they buying? What gets them excited? And so when you say, hey, you can have all the services you need for a flat monthly subscription to achieve the breakthrough that you need in your business, you can scale. You don't have to worry about all this big bills hitting you in the back end that's going to ruin your budget, right? They get excited because that's what they want to buy.
Yeah.
Instead of we're an ad agency, we're really expensive. We don't know what it's going to cost. We don't know what you need. After about a $50,000 engagement, we'll tell you what it is. And they go, really? Because that's the old way. And so when we changed our levers, our 4 Ps, and achieved a level of differentiation, that's when we went from being, and also 2 acquisitions, which was for the talent side. We needed access to a broader talent market, which is why we did our second acquisition. Next thing you know, we're scaling nationally. So that company became a national outsourced marketing department.
So it's fascinating and it makes so much sense. I really like the unique buying proposition. I'm going to bring that up with the team this afternoon because it's, you're trying to focus so much on we're obsessed with talking with our customers. We're obsessed with watching them use our software. We're obsessed with because we learn so much from that. And, but it is a really fundamental mindset to just always remember that it's about the customer and what they need. And I just like that way of explaining that it's the buyer. Not what we're selling, it's what they're buying, and I think that's really interesting.
It's funny when I taught marketing. I taught strategic marketing in an MBA course for many years. And it's funny because they give you this 800-page book. No kidding. Now, as an instructor, I gave quizzes on this 800-page book, which was death by definitions. And the MBA candidates in my class, almost nobody was a marketer. They're engineers and HR people and operators and accountants and all
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
And so I taught a parallel course. I boiled down all of my experiences into a few principles, which I actually put into a book called The Great Marketing Lie. It's available on Amazon. I'm not trying to sell books.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, later we can talk about how they can get it for free. But
We will do that. Yeah.
right. And we taught the UBP versus USP.
Yeah.
USP was created by an ad guy in the 1940s, as a matter of fact. So so it's time to change. That was fine during the age of mass marketing, the industrialization, tell people what they want. They've never heard of a washing machine before or an SUV. A lot of these things were new. So, just tell them. But now when we're flooded with product, the real value proposition isn't, hey, I need a washing machine. It's, I need something that's easier. I need convenience. So we like to tell our customers, Man, if your sales team is selling based on price discounts, you're just wrong. And that means you're selling a USP and a red ocean marketplace. And all you need to do is change to a UBP with the value proposition that is more, emotional, touches people deeper with what they're really trying to achieve in their life, and you will be able to sell at a premium price. Maybe not price leader, but you will not have to be given those discounts. And we've seen it over and over and over again. I have an example when you're ready to talk about it.
Jump in. I'm stopping myself from taking notes just because we're recording this and I can watch it later. So, yeah, dive in, man.
Yeah, and part of the process is just whittling, right? There's no, there's in what I do, there's the marketing science and there's the marketing art. Okay, so when I talk about differentiation or getting to a UBP, when I get to brand strategy, that kind of things, that's the science, and a lot of, in my message actually to your listenership here is most business leaders don't even understand what marketing really is. Over the decades, we have come to believe that marketing is the tactics. SEO, PPC, social media, websites, videos, and all these things, death by tactics. We call it all that marketing jazz, but that's not what that's marketing communications. Now, marketing communications is actually really hard. It's hard doing SEO well. Technology is involved and all that stuff, but marketing itself is classical. Marketing has been around since two humans conveyed an idea. Okay, there's the selling and purchase of an idea. No money is even transacted. So marketing happens. I like to say everything is marketing and marketing is everything. Look around you, look around your office. Everything was made. Everything had a value. You got your ceiling tiles, you got your carpet tiles and everything in between. And so everything is involved marketing, which is, I define as basically creating a value in the marketplace that somebody's willing to pay for and that you can manufacture or provide at a profit to shareholders, which, I learned that, there's so many definitions of marketing. There's a lot of really great marketing thinkers that would, they've got variations of that, but that's pretty much the great definition of marketing. So it's really, how do we create value? That is who does that? That can be a management team. That can be the owner. That can be partners. You know who it isn't? God is my witness. I'm going to get a lot of people mad at me. Maybe there's marketers listening. Marketing people don't learn that. They're taught the tactics. They don't know the marketing science, and they don't oftentimes have the experience to even think that way. Okay, so if a business owner says, "Oh, I have a marketing coordinator or marketing director," so you delegate marketing to them. Well, you're delegating marketing communications, and you think you're safe when you've really abandoned value migration, value identification, and value migration, which really means, I'll just use an HVAC company as a quick example, then get back to the other example. So, I just love these HVAC trucks go by. There's a lot of great, big commercial HVAC companies, or they're big, and so it's not a small little operator, but the van goes by and it's like, family owned since 1958. Woo! That's not, how is that, that's not even a message really,
Yeah.
And so, that identification of value needs to change and migrate. It's really funny, right? So when you think about HVAC, I like to think about, when it comes to value identification, I talk in terms of what's the lowest common denominator between what your company does and your market. Okay? With an HVAC company, is it, I need a new HVAC unit? No. Can you break that down? Yeah. So, well, how about the thermostat? That is perhaps where the consumer, even in the B2B, that's most frequently how they transact with HVAC. Or how about that air filter? Well, today, the energy companies and smart nest companies own that thermostat. The HVAC companies missed that because they didn't want to mess with that. They just wanted to go sell what they've been selling since freaking 1958. Get that, right? And so they're the same size today that they were back then, or slightly a little bit of growth, but not transformational. And so, perhaps it's the air filter. Well, why would it be the air filter? Well, because that needs to be replaced every 6 months, maybe every 3 months. Nobody likes to do it. The UBP is, I always forget. I hate doing it. I got to go to the store to buy the air filter. What if a company came in and said, we'll own that for you? We'll capture that for you, And so I use a filter minder service but it's out of like Minneapolis. I don't use anything local because nobody local offers that.
Yeah.
And so, right, instead they sell on price versus my email is hitting Mike and his household every 3 months, or perhaps we even drop off or ship him a high quality air filter, not just a rudimentary one, because of course our company stands for fresh air. We believe in fresh air, right? We make it up. And I like what they stand for because that's what I want. I want fresh air in my home. I don't want low cost HVAC. I want fresh air. I don't want it to be abusive. But, so here's a company that has great values. They believe in what I believe in for my home. And, they're helping me out by, sending me a filter. Maybe I pay a few extra bucks for it. But when it comes to service and when that HVAC, when it breaks down, who am I going to call? I'm going to call them. They've already got a relationship with me. So that's called, by the way, I've just articulated strategic marketing. Strategic marketing, or a marketing strategy, is 1 to 3 words, something that drives what you do. Okay, so maybe that marketing strategy for that HVAC company is called air filter. We have an air filter strategy. If all we try to do when our commercial techs go out, when that residential tech goes out, they're trying to capture and own that air filter relationship, because we know people have to replace it. They hate doing it. We're going to make the life easier. We're going to deliver on our value proposition of fresh air. And you know what? They're going to hate it, because most clients, when you present good, clean marketing strategy to them, they're going to go, I don't want to do that. All I want to do is sell expensive stuff. And so they start discounting their price and RFPing things, hiring a bunch of expensive sales. I'm not kidding. Does this ring a bell?
Oh, I've seen it a million times, and we just virtually never discount, and part of the reason is because early on we tried it didn't make any difference. People want the product, they buy it. They if we've done our job right, they buy it, and we think we offer a ton of value, so we just don't, and partly it's just because we just don't think it's going to work, but also we don't want to lose the revenue, and
if it's B2B,
but there's others that do. There's others. I think we even have competitors. In fact, I saw one not too long ago that is going ultra steep discount, and it's and I looked at it, and all the signals it said to me was like, man, I wonder if they're struggling, because that is not normal kind of thing is what came to mind for me. I don't know if the market looks at it the same way or not.
Well, every scenario is different. So, the example I kind of wanted to get to. So we had a very large commercial roofing company, residential roofing company, very large, and they went around and basically followed storms, and hail destroys the roof. They go in, they replace the roof, maybe destroys some of the windows and siding. And so they're a roofing company. They're like, well, we're here. We could replace the windows, and so they started thinking about, launching a window product line. And then they're like, well, what if we branded our own line of windows? And so that's when they contacted us, and we were given the assignment to develop a window brand for them. So we started doing a bunch of research. Why do people buy windows? Now, of course, a lot of us think, well, obviously because one, I have to, right? It's broken. Or two, because I want energy savings. And so we're like, as good marketers, we're struggling with this idea of differentiation and even a brand. There's an exercise out there called brand strategy and positioning analysis. It's in the book, and it's a brilliant exercise to go through, because it will produce a clear blue ocean market position for you, which is much easier. Market positions is really complex and kind of intimidating, but it's not. Basically, that exercise is repositioning your competitors away from you versus your own market position. You get to change, how you think about your product or your brand any number of times whenever you want. Then that's not a law. That's not set in stone. Just like we did. Instead of advertising agency in Wichita, Kansas, we relabeled our XY axes outsourced marketing department for entrepreneurs nationally. And as soon as we did that, all of our competitors fell out of our quadrant into the death quadrant, which is the opposite side. No kidding. That's as easy as it can be. For your mind, your butt will follow. So we went through this exercise with this roofing company, and we did the research, and we realized that a great part of the market replaced windows due to sound. They were seeking sound reduction. What kind of sounds? Lawnmowers, backfiring cars, gunshots, Footsteps. I'm like, this is all secondary research. Seriously, people are hearing footsteps outside, so they buy a window to reduce the sound of footprints. I love that. Right? The boogeyman's going to get you.
Yeah.
And anyway, so then we came back to the client and said, look, you can compete with every other window company saying, hey, we've got an STC of a higher, whatever it is, whatever energy reduction quality, but you're just going to bounce off, consumers' heads because everybody's saying the same thing. Why don't you talk about sound reduction, which is actually the STC rating, and follow a branding strategy along that path. And so in the buy and buy, we came back and we said, look, we think you should call your window the quiet window. That's the UBP.
Yeah.
What do people want? They want quiet. Call it the quiet window. You put a baby into your advertising concept and you target mothers who have just had a baby or who are pregnant. And because they know other families that are growing, and with that kind of setup, right, with the brand and even the marketing strategy of target mothers, right? It launched with great fanfare, actually. Mm-hmm. And then about a year later, the manufacturer and the distributor got into a contract dispute, and they were no longer allowed to sell windows. That's too bad because it was great marketing success.
Yeah. I just find it really fascinating. Again, the way you approach finding that what the buyer wants to buy, what they value, and it's going into a deep dive like that, because like you said, it's like, why do people buy windows? Well, it gives energy savers, whatever. To find that one little hook there is fascinating, and it's something that I know, especially early on, and especially even in Dryrun, we struggled a bit for that differentiation, because sometimes you're like, well, we want to reach the most people. No, you learn. No, that's wrong. We got to stand out from everybody else. And it's sometimes it's hard for, I know businesses, we see it all the time. They try to be all things to all people, and it's counter to what actually works. So I take it like that's probably your main strategy, even with your differentiation of your model, but the thing you sell is also differentiation.
Well, I know, right? That's why RapterUSA was kind of formed, because really RSM Marketing, the operational company, became really a digital marketing company, a tactical execution company. Because, delivering marketing strategy is, you got to have some gray hair, really, or no hair. You know what I mean? One of the two. All parties involved here. It's both good for the good for the gander. You can't really replicate that to a scalability unless you hire a bunch of expensive people. That's what I enjoy. That's what we excel at. And again, it doesn't have to be really hard. It just combines some of this marketing science with really the experience to fill in the blanks really quickly, or coach a management team very expeditiously. Because typically we can get there in a 2-hour meeting when it comes to this brand strategy, positioning, analysis. It blows clients' minds. Like, how did you do that in 2 hours? I said, well, I didn't. You did. Your management team had it. It's just sifting quickly through all of the din, right? And words that don't mean anything. So what we'll actually do is throw a bunch of words up, answering, 5 strategic questions, and throw up the words. And then we start circling the words that matter. Next thing you know, you have your brand strategy. You also have your tagline. You have your key value proposition, and you have your 15-second elevator speech. And then we'll quickly write a web page, putting it all together. And then you review it, and they're like, holy crap on a stick. That's going to work. Yeah. And it adds value. We have one company do it for a year. They were a technology company in the oil field space, and they got bought at a premium because they turned sales around when they stopped selling data discovery and instead started communicating there's hidden treasure in your data. The use of a metaphor from youth, something that is desirable and people want to discover, hidden treasure. I'm not kidding. Couldn't believe they actually bought off on it. The use of that metaphor as a brand strategy, hidden treasure. And they did, and it turned sales around for them in a very competitive category.
It's fascinating. I want to hear about your book, because I'm going to want to read your book. Right. So tell me about it.
Well, so the name of the book is The Great Marketing Lie.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you what the great marketing lie is. It's one word, of course, because we like to make it easy. But this is based on all of these hundreds and hundreds of case studies and companies we've worked with, and you know what the industry tries to perpetuate. And then we say the six antidotes, or I'm sorry, the six truths. The six truths that will offset the great marketing lie. And the six truths, it starts with the number one, chapter one is, this one, the first truth is differentiation. And that's what we've been talking about a little bit. That it is the first thing. Otherwise, you're selling a commodity based on commodity pricing into a saturated market. And we talk about Peter Thiel because look, you have to understand too. I don't know it all. I mean, I know very little. Now, I shouldn't say that. We've synthesized what we've learned from others, and we've customized it to work in a business case environment. Because a lot of this stuff can be academic, right? So one of the tools, so we say, okay, chapter one is you need differentiation in your business, and here are several models to get there. That's why this book is really tight. It's short, and it's not meant to show how smart we are. It's full of, here's what you need to do. Here's the model and the tools to do it. Go do it. And so one of the models is called order of magnitude better. Well, that's a little awkward, isn't it? Order of magnitude better. And so it comes from Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal. He gave a series of discussions to a Stanford entrepreneurial class, I don't know, 8 years ago. And he said in typical Peter Thiel or 1.21 gigawatt fashion, right? 1.21 gigawatts from Back to the Future. How do you achieve differentiation? He said, well, it's an order of magnitude better. It's an order of magnitude better. And he said, well, what do you mean order of magnitude better? He says, look, if you're going to start a business, if you're going to operate a business, don't operate a business that is at class, or basically 1x at class. Mm-hmm. Take what you're doing times 1x, and that's what you got. Don't sweat your life's blood away for 2x or even 3x different or better. Aim for 10x better. That is an order of magnitude better than what is today. So the challenge right there, right out of the book, is all the listeners, are you a 10x order of magnitude better company than what your competitors are offering? And if you're not, don't worry, okay? Can you get to 2 to 3x? Okay, so what does that look like? Well, you have the 4 P's to play with: product, price, place, promotion, right? And that's really, look, there's a lot of different models for that. Well, let's just stick to the 4 P's. It's good enough. What are the levers you can pull there? And a lot of times you don't have to change your product. Just talk about it differently. It's many times. God, I mean, we've made a lot of money for clients because they just changed their brand strategy. The way they're taught this promotion. We work with a very large turkey manufacturing company, one of the nation's largest, and they were talking about turkey relative to taste. And we did the research on turkey, and we said, look, first of all, consumers don't believe it. They think turkey is really difficult to cook and that it doesn't taste nearly as well as beef, pork, and chicken because it doesn't have fat. But, you're just doing what everybody else is doing. Why don't you talk about the one thing that turkey has that no one else has? And that's health. It's the leanest protein with the fewest calories outside of ostrich, our research showed. But the last time, I don't know about you, Blaine, the last time I went to the grocery store, I couldn't find ostrich. I could find turkey. So we said, why don't you change your brand strategy from taste to health? And they hated it. Oh, it's boring. Who wants to be a health strategy? We said, well, let's talk about the marketing side of this. Okay, there's a lot of consumer segments out there that want to embrace, whether they got diabetes, whether they're trying to lose weight. And so, we pitched a marketing communications campaign, and we said, basically, we did the math on the calories. It's January, right after the holidays. This is when we launched the campaign, January. We said, hey, all you, folks out there who gained your typical 5 pounds over the holidays, how would you like to lose 5 pounds or certainly avoid 5 pounds by bikini season? Just replace, beef or pork on Tuesday and Thursday. Replace it with turkey, and you'll shed 5 pounds by spring. So we told them exactly how to. We didn't say health. We just, they know that. People know turkey is healthy. And so over the next 3 months, the first quarter, they measured the lift due to the campaign versus the lift due to the category. So the turkey category over that first 3 months of that year grew 8%. The brand sales was 28%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So did the health message work? And and by the way, the turkey company didn't sell to the end consumer first. They sold to the channel first. They sold to grocery stores. Guess who got excited? The grocery stores got excited. So like, finally, here's a product that knows how to talk to consumers. That's where
they recognize that.
They recognize that.
Yeah.
So that's an order of magnitude better just by way of changing the way that you talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super fascinating. I know we're probably over time by now. I could probably sit and talk with you for another hour here easily because I'm finding this so interesting. But what I am going to track down your book. I absolutely am going to. I'm looking forward to reading it. But first of all, I want to thank you, Mike, for being on the show. But I also want to ask, how can people get a hold of you? Where should they find you? Because I know you can offer them an absolute ton.
Well, I appreciate that. So, if they're interested in some consulting, they can go to raptors.biz, raptors.biz. If they would like a free copy of the book, they can download a PDF. They can go to rsmconnect.com and they'll find it. They'll get there. They can download a PDF. Yes, we're going to ask for your contact information. Someone might contact you, but hey, it's a good piece of gear. And if you're interested, of course, you can find me also at rsmconnect.com. That's RSM Marketing. One is the Thought brand. The other one is the Hands and Elbows brand. But you'll find my contact information on either. And look, I live to help entrepreneurs. So I'm happy to spend 30 minutes on the phone with anybody. And, the whole point of that 30 minutes is, can we give you an idea? Can we impart value in that first 30 minutes? Go do it yourself. Go do it. Be different.
Thank you so much, Mike. This was just such an enjoyable conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna make it required listening and watching from our team because I think they're gonna love this too. I think they'll find it so interesting and fascinating.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And for any of you guys that are out there, again, I'm a co-founder, CEO at Dryrun, and if you're a company that has lumpy cash flow and lumpy sales, if you have it, we will help you draw in a couple $100,000 that I know you're leaving on the table for every $1 million revenue, just because we're going to show you the lumps ahead of time. And that means you're going to be able to fix it. So come and talk with us. We'll show you how to take care of your cash flow, take care of those lumps, make more money, and thrive in 23, despite everything being against business in 23. Thanks so much, Mike. Really appreciate it.